Tanya had received her usual order to escort the base commander, Alexei Kalatakoy, to a local party. The event was held bi-weekly. There had been something of a standing order for her to be the commander's escort. Alexei had a wife and children, but his wife did not fulfill his desires because she was older and rotund. Alexei preferred the company of a young, sexy woman, and he used his position of power to enable him to enjoy Tanya's tight body. Earlier in the day, while carrying a stack of documents, she had been bumped into by one of the math people who were detained by the Mafia to explore and find discoveries in the math of the M-theory, a highly advanced set of equations attempting to describe the universe. During the brief encounter, a slip of paper had been passed to her unseen by the guards. This was a message she needed to pass along the chain to the American CIA. It was her only means of fighting back against the commander and the corrupt Mafia. She had hopes of someday being free from this living hell. Tanya continued back to her desk. While reorganizing stacks of files, she pulled out the small piece of paper. Without anyone noticing, she quickly hid it in her bra, hiding it from the view and avoiding detection in case she was searched upon leaving the office. The commander and Tanya arrived at the party by car. Tanya was dressed in a low-cut, tight-fitting white gown, which hung off one shoulder and reached to her knees. Alexei had bought the gown for Tanya for his personal pleasure. With her raven hair cascading down to her back, she created a striking figure. The army driver came around and opened the door for Alexei, who was dressed in his commander's uniform, which was tight around the expanding belly. The driver then moved around to the door for Tanya. Alexei came around to take Tanya's arm. Tanya wore a forced smile like the trophy he saw her as. Alexei wore her on his arm as they climbed the 5 steps to the entrance of the hotel. They entered the local hotel. To their left was a small restaurant, and to their right the hotel desk. The elevator on their right took them to the top floor, where the large suites were. These were typically used for the parties that were held at the hotel. While in the elevator, Alexei looked down at the young woman and her exposed tops of her breasts. She reminded him of a time in the past when he had trained a beautiful young agent for the Mafia in using sex as her spy tool chest. While Tanya was not quite as beautiful as the sexually hungry, while Tanya was not quite as beautiful or as sexually hungry as the woman in his memory, being located in this area of the country, his choices were somewhat limited. However, she did satisfy his cravings. Maybe he was getting older. His stamina was not what it used to be, but his desire remained. Tanya, in her most private conversations, referred to Alexei as the pig. She survived and gained the strength to get through the evenings by recalling images of her parents and brother in Moscow. Her family lives were hostage to this pig through their willingness to give him what he wanted. Exiting the elevator, they turned to the right and found the double doors at the entrance into the party suite. As the doors opened, a young woman with defiance in her manner stepped up to take their coats, and they continued into the party. The room decorations were 1940 semi-bland design, with a simple chandelier and plain lamps spread around the room for lighting. There were approximately 20 people, couples and singles, mingling in the large suite, with waiters roaming with food and drinks. To the left of the entrance was a small bar with a bartender pouring wine and beer and making mixed drinks. The younger women were surrounded by men who bantered for their favors and kept the liquor flowing in hopes of a quick fling in the reserved rooms adjacent to the suite. The sofa chairs and the coffee table had been moved out of the center of the room and placed against the walls. The main window presented a view of the mountain range with the soon-to-be snow-capped peaks. Waiters moved around the room offering food and drink. Other couples arrived, and the party grew to its normal size of 60 people. Over time, the party progressed. Some of the men and women paired off and left the suite, only to return a little later with flushed faces and slight hints of disarray, while others did not return. As a waiter approached the commander and his escort, Tanya took a glass of red wine from the tray, and the waiter moved on around the room. One of the older couples in the room approached the commander and his escort and began a conversation. The woman, Della, and her husband, Gregory, had been acquaintances of the commander over the past few years. As the discussions continued, the men and the women drifted slowly apart by a few feet, pressing close to the others in the crowded room, as their discussions were focused on subjects of male versus female interest. While men were approaching Tanya, as soon as they saw the commander look at them with his icy stare, they quickly backed away. While Della and Tanya discussed their dresses, Tanya reached out to touch the fabric in Della's low-cut dress. She had a small piece of paper in her hand that she had taken from her clutch purse while looking for the lipstick. In a single motion, she tucked the palmed paper inside Della's dress under her bra strap while they continued their conversation. After a period of time, Gregory turned to his wife. "Della, take Tanya and go powder your nose." Della gave Gregory a frown. "Please, I have something I need to discuss with Alexei." Della and Tanya excused themselves to use the bathroom off the main living room. After the women left, Gregory spoke to Alexei. "There's a rumor the Americans have made a breakthrough. I have a plan in place to slow them down, if not stop them." With a grin, Gregory continued, "You're always ahead of them." With a deadly grin, Alexei responded, "Moscow makes sure I am." Looking at his empty drink, Gregory said, "See you later. It's time to mingle and see if I can learn anything useful." While Tanya waited outside the bathroom, Della quickly removed the paper from her bra strap to her clutch purse, spent a moment to straighten her clothes and hair, and exited. The two women returned to the party. After Tanya returned to the commander's side, his hands found their way to Tanya's chest as he invited another couple to join them in the suite's bedroom for some games. This was the part of the party Tanya hated the most, but she had come to accept it in exchange for the lives of her brother and parents. Failure to perform would be to forfeit her own and her family's lives. While this was not specifically stated, indications had been given and she knew it. While death did not bother her so much anymore, the thought of her family's execution because of her failure would never be something she could allow. So she knew she had no chance but to endure the situation. It would be a year before word arrived through her contact Della to prepare for an extraction. When the time came, relief was finally found as she and her family were extracted from the hands of the Mafia and taken to safety in the West. At last, her living nightmare was over, although the nightmare dreams would take much longer to go away. Please like and subscribe the Watcher in the Fall channel. If you enjoy our videos, please click Patreon on the front page and buy me a drink. Thank you.